folks, Tom Vassell here.
Jason Levine.
Today we're going to, in these back and forths with Jason, we're going to be talking about newer Euro games. We're also going to start looking at older classic ones. And one of the things I thought of, hey, let's look at some of the games from Alea. Alea has done some great games over the years. And they did a line of big box games, which I believe went to 18 games or so. It's
16, I think. I don't know what
they
it's
did a
at.
lot. They some of them they didn't even number. It's really weird.
Yeah.
But number one in that series was Ra. Okay, Ra is an auction game by Dr. Reiner Knizia, and it's one of the few games where people use the name of the game in a different way than it was intended. It's about summoning Ra, or not summoning Ra? I forget. Well, you kind of... Well,
you don't want Ra to come.
I'll show you. Ra is essentially an auction game. It is going to take place over 3 epochs. Each epoch is going to be triggered by this track filling up here with Ra tiles, and then basically 3 players ends here, 4 and 5 players. Each player is going to have a set of sun tiles that they're going to place in front of them. So for a 4-player game, one person has the 8, 4, and 11, another person has a 2, 6, 13, etc. You're going to start with the 1 in the middle. And the way the game works is on your turn, you can pull a tile from the bag and add it here. And players are just going to be pulling tiles from the bag and adding them to this track. Now, if a player adds a Ra tile to the track, then the game will stop and there will be an auction at that point. Or a player can decide not to pull a tile and just simply take this and declare Ra. When that happens, there's an auction. After the auction, this tile is going to go up here to this track. Nobody has to bid in an auction, so the tiles might stay here. Otherwise, the winner is going to get all the tiles that are on the track. And you can keep adding if no one wins. If you take Ra, then you have to bid unless other people bid. Someone has to bid if you take this deliberately. And if the whole track fills up, again, Ra is triggered automatically. So there's a possibility only one person is left in the bidding. Now, how does bidding work? Well, when bidding works, essentially you are going to pick one of your face-up tiles. At the beginning of the game, all 3 of your tiles will be face-up, so maybe I want this one, so I bid 6. And the next player bids 8, the next person bids 10, the next person bids 12. Each player only gets 1 bid. The 12 is the highest bid, they win it. So they're going to put the 12 in the middle, they're going to take the 1 and put the 1 face down. Now the person who bid 12 only has the 7 and the 3 left over for them to use. Once you run out of number tiles to bid, then you are out that round and you just basically watch the other players. And the numbers, you're going to have a completely different set of numbers for the next epoch because of the ones that you win. Sometimes you can even declare Ra and win an auction just to get a different number that's in the middle. With a 12 in the middle, that's a high number. Players may want to fight over that one. At the end of each epoch, you're going to score some of the tiles. Some of the tiles can be used during the epoch. Let's take a look at the tiles. You keep all tiles face up in front of you. God tiles are useful because you can use them during the game you can discard one to take a tile of your choice off the track. So that you discard the God tile. Otherwise, at the end of each epoch, you discard a God tile, and they're each worth 2 points. Points are taken using these point token markers. You got 1s and 2s and 5s and 10s, and players will start the game with some points, but you're trying to get more as time goes by. There's also Pharaoh tiles. Whoever has the most Pharaoh tiles will get 5 points at the end of each epoch, and whoever has the fewest will lose 2 points. And then you keep all those tiles to the next epoch. Then we have these. These are simply worth 3 points, and then you discard them. There's going to be a lot of Nile tiles. These here are 1 point each, as well as flood tiles are worth 1 point. However, without a flood tile, these don't give you any points at all. And at the end of the epoch, the flood tiles go away. So these are worth nothing unless you also get some flood tiles. Then there are civilization tiles. There are 5 different civilization tiles. Whoever has no civilization tiles in front of them is going to lose 5 points. If you have 3 different ones, you get 5, 4 different ones, 10, and if you have all 5 different civilization tiles, you're going to get 15 points, and then these go away. So you got to get all those in one round. And then one of the biggest things is monuments. However, monuments are only scored at the end of the third epoch. There's several different monuments, and you're going to score for basically having as many different ones or many of the same. So for example, if I have 3 of the same monument here, that is going to score me 5 points, 10 if I have 4, and 15 if I have all 5 of one type. At the same time, if you have 6 different monuments, 5 points, 7 different monuments, 10 points, and if you have all 8 different monuments, that is 15 points. You will also score points based on your number tiles. In the last epoch, taking number tiles, you might not think it's a big deal, but whoever has the highest total is going to get 5 points, and whoever has the lowest total will lose 5 points. That's pretty much the whole game. The only other thing is, occasionally these tiles will sneak themselves into the line when you draw them from the bag. These are disaster tiles. If you win these, they will automatically destroy tiles. Like, for example, this will destroy 2 of the Nile tiles. This destroys 2 monuments. This kills 2 of your civilization tiles. So you got to be careful. Sometimes you definitely don't want to win an auction. Whoever has the most points at the end of all 3 epochs is the winner of the game. Now they've made some smaller versions of Ra. There's Ra the dice game, which is a very different game than this.
Yes.
And then there's a closer game to this called Razia, which was like a gangster version of this, I think.
Yeah.
But it's not quite the same thing. This is the classic game of Ra. Where do you stand on it?
I like it. I've always liked Ra. It's not my favorite of the line, but it's a decent game. There's a few problems with it. Is the pharaohs are clearly the most important thing. If you don't get pharaohs, you can't win the game. You need to get pharaohs. Everything else is secondary. But
there's a lot of games that have that same problem, like St. Petersburg has that same thing where you want to get something that the points ramp up, and if you ignore that, you can do that to your detriment.
Exactly. So one of my good friends who passed away a few years ago, his actual email was pharaohs3epics at yahoo.com. So he made it very clear that pharaohs for all 3 epics, and he actually won Ra 4 times at the World Board Gaming Championships. Obviously collecting pharaohs along the way. But other than that, I really like the mechanics. I like the pressure luck aspect. I like how each turn your bidding changes. So when you pressure luck, you're going to get different bidding tiles. So if you have low bidding tiles, you want to stop it, call Ra early. But if you have high bidding tiles, you want to wait and have more things come out so you get more for your bang for that. But the people with the low ones are going to quickly call Ra rather than waiting for all 8 tiles to come out. It's very, very cool. Of course, you have the pressure of once the Ra tiles come out, once all the Ra suns come out, then you're in trouble because when the thing runs out and you didn't get your tiles, then you lost the pressure luck aspect.
Yeah, the pressure luck thing is probably my favorite part of the game, and it's funny because you always know when people are playing this game, because when one person's left and they're just drawing tiles, everybody else starts chanting Ra, 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 Ra. And it's really funny. And you're like, are they cheering? Ra, Ra, Ra? And there's that whole which is kind of weird because that's in the game, but the rest of the game is very strategic.
Yeah.
That's almost like a lucky part, but the tiles, it's very intriguing, that bidding tile thing. In fact, I don't know that any other bidding game uses that, do you?
No, not tiles in that kind of way where you only could bid once and you're putting out your low tile, but if you might not get it because the person with the 16 can slam down and take it with their 16, but then they're not the highest anymore. And the highest is tricky. When you're the highest, sometimes you want to wait, but sometimes there's something that's good and someone else is going to force you to have to take it even though it doesn't have 8 tiles. And you're not going to get 8 tiles every game. Sometimes you're going to get 2 tiles in one round for one of your bidding tiles. Sometimes you're going to get 6 tiles. Sometimes you're going to get 8 tiles twice. It depends how lucky you feel versus how much you really want something that comes along.
Do you feel lucky, Pharaoh? Now, interestingly enough, even though I mentioned the luck, and you've mentioned it too, there's a push your luck aspect to it, almost every time I've played Ra, I think the better player has won. You mentioned someone won it 4 times at World Board Gaming Championships.
Yes.
You might get lucky, and I think luck can win a game for you, but it can't help you overcome a player who's simply better. You have to gauge what tiles are out there, figure out what groups you're going for, do your best to avoid the disasters, and you have to kind of do that strategically and know the best time to bid each tile. I have been soundly whooped in this game. I've like drawn, I'm like, ooh, I just drew a great handful of tiles. Yeah, I'm going to win. And then someone beats me because they played better. And if you have someone in your group who's just way better than everyone else, be careful playing Ra against them because they will whoop you.
Not always. I mean, it depends. I find the tricks in Ra are you only want to get one civ each turn. You don't really need more. There's no reason to grab more. Yes, you get extra points, but that's only if they just happen to come along. Obviously, the pharaohs are the most important thing, and then getting some monument points, because pharaohs and monuments hardly ever go away. The Niles are good too, but you need to get a flood each turn if you want to actually score. So I'm more like my friend who was the master at the game. I think the pharaohs are the best way to go. If you're first in pharaohs, right away you get 15 points, 5 each turn, and that puts you 15 ahead of everyone when then you count everything else. And
well, overall, Ra is at this point in time not in print. I don't believe
it's coming back.
It's coming back, possibly.
Tasty Minstrel's doing it.
That's right.
Tasty Minstrel's doing it.
Tasty Minstrel will bring it back, but there's a lot of copies of printed. This one here is by Uberplay. I know Aaliyah did it. There's several versions of it around. So if you get a chance, certainly I recommend it. It's not my favorite auction game, but it's unique and interesting, and the pulling from the bag, the tiles part, is something I like a lot.
It's a lot of fun to pull from the bag and say, what did I get? Or, oh no, I don't want to pull Ra. And
give me an awesomeness rating.
For this one, I give it an awesomeness rating of 6.
Oh, that's lower than I. I'm pretty close to that too, but I think it's, even if it's not a game like we both said, it's not one of our favorite games, I certainly think it's one that everyone should play at least once.
I agree. I mean, I've played it. It's weird. He went ooh that I gave it a 6, and I've played the game probably at least 50 times. But compared to some other games, it's not my favorite. But it's not a bad game at all. Don't even think that.
All right, that's Ra.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.